Welcome to the Sound of Resistance channel. While the war in Ukraine was going on, it played up with an explosion on the border. Among the main actors of the explosion are Ukrainian heroic commandos. The Ukrainian commandos, who had been slain for a long time, landed on the battle arena and began to rout the areas where the Russian soldiers were located. The Russian army is unable to resist the attack of the Ukrainian commandos. Russian troops also find the solution to leave their areas they occupy. Recently, we witnessed that the Russian army made a great effort to recruit mercenaries. The Wagner Group, one of the Russian mercenaries fighting in Ukraine, contacted many foreign nationals to include them in their troops. The Russian Wagner Group aims to involve Afghan soldiers specially trained by the US to fight against the Ukrainian army. The Russian Wagner Group is confident that Afghan soldiers will make a big difference in Ukraine that will directly affect the outcome of the war. While the Russian army had not yet overcome the shock of their defeat in Ukraine, the Ukrainian warriors dealt another blow of the Russian army. Ukrainian commandos raided the airport deep in Russia. Ukrainian commandos blew up 3 helicopter warships at the Russian military airfield near the Latvian border, in one of the most spectacular behind-the-line raids launched by the both sides since beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war. The main intelligence directorate of Ministry of Defense of Ukraine said in a statement that the attack took place at the Verenti airbase of the Russian army in the northwestern Pskov region. The facility where the Ukrainian army is attacking is located at a distance of 500 km from Ukraine to the south and about 110 km from NATO member Latvia to the east. According to the statement of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, 2 Ka-52 attack helicopters belonging to the Russian army were completely destroyed. Ukrainian operators infiltrated the facility to destroy the third helicopter. Ukrainian operators suffered extensive damage to the third Russian helicopter as a result of the explosion of explosive placed on the Ka-52 attack helicopter of the Russian army. According to some reports, Russian security teams later found a fourth helicopter equipped with unexploded explosives. The Ka-52 Crocodile helicopter is one of the Kremlin's newest combat aircraft. The Ka-52 attack helicopter has been widely profiled in the state-controlled media as an example of growing Russian military power. The $16 million aircraft, in mass production since 2007, is equipped with a multi-level digital computer-based system, a helmet-mounted side display, advanced navigation and fixed points for anti-tank missiles, ground attack rockets and aerial bombs. Russian authorities confirmed the Ukrainian attack that took place at the Vereti airbase of the Russian army in the Pskov region. Some Russians initially challenged Kiev's ability to carry out such an attack, but even pro-Kremlin information platforms acknowledged Ukraine's success after video of the actual sabotage operation in progress was shown. In the shared video, remarkable details of the attack of the Ukrainian army emerged. In the video, an unarmed man in military clothing prepares and places explosive on the fuselage of a Ka-52 helicopter parked on the concrete asphalt of the Russian army airspace. Russian soldiers are nowhere to be seen. Even the Kremlin supporters admitted that the offensive of the Ukrainian army was a major defeat for the Russian army. Starshi Edi, a pro-Kremlin information platform focused on military developments, said, "Let's be honest, this is huge failure on our parts. Yes, we need much harsher punishment immediately for those following inside Russia. Insulting insults for Ukrainians. If it is possible to calmly blow up a helicopter on troop territory, what can we say about our less protected places?" said. Yuri Butusov, one of the Ukraine's leading military journalists, said that the strike was one of the best sabotage operations of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. Yuri Butusov, saboteurs broke into the territory of a particular important military base, went unnoticed to the helicopter parking lot, installed 4 explosive devices, that is lost some time, set a timer, and also left the territory of the airbase unnoticed. Summarizing how the offensive of the Ukrainian army developed. It seems that the Russian army will not be able to get up for a long time with this blow from the Ukrainian forces. The news of the Vereti strike was made public 2 days after a dramatic attack on Russian Black Sea Fleet warship off the coast from the Ukrainian armed forces, bases in Sevastopol on the Russian Federation occupied Crimean Peninsula. RF military spokesman said that Ukrainian special forces used explosive-landed, remote-controlled motorboats to attack 3 BSF warships, inflicting minor damage on one. On 29 October, a naval raid on the Russian Black Sea Fleet off the coast from their base in Sevastopol on the Crimean Peninsula damaged at least 2 Russian ships, one of which was a frigate armed with long-range cruise missiles used to hit Ukrainian civilian targets. Kyiv military spokesman confirmed that the Ukrainian special forces were behind the attack. The Ukrainian Special Forces, which carried out the attack on the Russian Black Sea Fleet, has a listed strength of approximately 5,000 men and women. Ukrainian Special Forces began the transition to NATO-style training and tactics in 2014, after the Kremlin forcibly annexed Crimea and occupied Ukraine's Luhansk and Donetsk regions. Since then, the Ukrainian Special Forces leadership and even those at the grassroots have trained frequently, particularly with NATO counterparts from the United States, Great Britain, Poland, and the Baltic states. The attack of the Ukrainian Special Forces on the Russian Black Sea Fleet warships off the coast from their base in Sevastopol on the Crimean Peninsula has caused a major problem that will affect the whole world. Russia has announced that it is suspending the grain corridor agreement with Ukraine. Russia announced that it has indefinitely suspended the agreement on the export of grain products from Ukraine, and that the Russian side can no longer guarantee the safety of civilian ships passing through the corridor. Russia said that Ukraine is now on a threat. The Russian Ministry of Defense stated that the British-backed Kyiv regime troops attacked the Black Sea Fleet of Russia with unmanned aerial vehicles off the Crimea, and that the Russian warships that ensure the security of the grain-carrying ships became the target. The Kyiv regime attacked the Black Sea Fleet ships on October 29, given the terrorist attack against civilian ships tasked with securing the grain corridor. The Russian side has suspended its participation in agreements on the export of agricultural products from Ukrainian ports, the statement said. After Russia suspended the grain corridor agreement, statements by the Ukrainian government began to come one after another. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said in a statement today that they are continuing talks with the Turkey and the United Nations on the agreement. When asked by journalists whether Russia would return to the grain agreement, Peskov replied, "It is difficult for me to answer this question right now," underlining that they continue to negotiate despite this. Peskov said contacts with Turkey and the United Nations are maintained through our diplomatic institutions. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba called on the international community not to allow Russia to block the grain corridor that ensures food security for millions of people under a false pretext. Ukrainian President Zelensky also heavily criticized Russia's grain corridor stance that will affect millions of people. Zelensky demanded the United Nations and G20 member states to condemn Russia's unlawful decision. In addition to his statement, the Russian leader reproached how Russia is still among the G20 countries while making such unlawful decisions. As a result of the Ukrainian army seizing the regions occupied by Russians in Ukraine one by one, Putin cannot fit into his bubble and cannot control his anger. The consequences of the selfish decisions taken by leader Putin affect all people. Expressing that it is time to put a stop to Russian leader, the Ukrainians asked their allies for their help on the issues. Ukraine's allies will undoubtedly stand behind Ukraine as always. Thanks for watching us.